is known for a lot of grimdark stories. In some cases, he doesn't just come off as harsh or brutal, but downright cruel. And I think this is a mistake. I believe, just as a longtime fan of The Dark Knight, that Bruce Wayne, when he's in the cape and cowl, he should not just be harsh and deal out punishment. I believe there is space for a Batman that is both empathetic and compassionate. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry, and this is the StudioJake vidcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Just to kick things off, I hope that you will like this video, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment, tell what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching this on your mobile app for YouTube, I would appreciate if you would hype this video. I'm not really sure what that does, but I'm told it's positive, so I greatly appreciate that. Now, I have listed this in some of my favorite Batman comics list. I have done this many times, and that is the story Batman The Dark Knight Returns, and then later its prequel, All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder. Both are written by Frank Miller, who is one of my all-time favorite comic book writers, not just of Batman, but of other stuff like Holy Terror or his stint at Daredevil. Even though I have an appreciation for his works on Batman, especially Batman Year One, which to this day I say is the best origin for the Caped Crusader, there is something elemental about it in a way that it can get overwrought. And what do I mean by that? Now, Batman in these stories, I should be specific, in The Dark Knight Returns, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, and All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, Batman is portrayed in a very grimdark fashion. He is brutal, he is harsh, and in many cases he is cruel. In fact, one of the things that bothers me most about All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, is that he has no problem with shoving Alfred around, and I have a huge problem with that. This Batman is clearly capable of some level of patience, maybe, or in some cases even having a softer side at times, but his overall nature is very brooding and nihilistic, and like I said, harsh. And while I believe there is a place for these stories with Batman, I mean, I've got them on my comic book shelf over there. I don't think that they should be erased. I do feel like that version of Batman has been overdone, and a few reasons why that is. First of all, you could clearly see that Zack Snyder, the only comic book he ever read was The Dark Knight Returns, because he even crafted Ben Affleck's look as Batman on the Frank Miller verse, and also the Titans TV series, where Bruce Wayne was abusive to Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. Not just in the sense that he was tough on them in their training, but downright would sometimes beat them. And again, this comes from All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder. And like I said, I do think that there is a place for those stories, especially among us more mature readers of Batman. However, that side of Batman has sort of creeped its way into popular culture, especially with the Snyder Cut movement, where people were doing screen-by-screen comparisons to the comic books and primarily using those two sources. Not to mention, as I said, the Titans version. We even saw this in the Arrowverse, which did not fully embrace or introduce Batman, but in scenes where Batman appeared, again, it was that very grim, dark version of the character. Now, I would like to suggest that this should not be the mainstream Batman in the continuity of the DC universe. No matter what reboot they're on this time, I've lost track at this point. I don't even know. But I do feel that it has permeated into it, and we definitely saw this in the Tom King run, followed up by the Chip Zdarsky run. We see that version of Batman in the White Knight universe, which has fantastic artwork. Sean Gordon Murphy is a fantastic artist, but he is a terrible Batman writer. And now we're seeing it in Absolute Batman, that brutal, I'll even cut your hand off with an axe side of Batman. But even going back to the Michael Keaton films and into the comic books, you see that more compassionate, empathetic, and hopeful version of the character. Now, when I say empathy, I'm not talking about the toxic empathy that has permeated a lot of the social media discourse, where no matter what the person has done, down to destroying planets or slaying a father figure or friend or causing irreparable harm to a particular group of people, if they have some sort of tragedy in their background or they come from a perceived protected class, that you have to give them some sort of empathy no matter the harshness of their crime. They just get redeemed because they're like this. We see this a lot with X-Men 97 version of Magneto, right? He's not even really the Magneto of the X-Men 90s cartoon. He's like this new interpretation where the X-Men and even humanity has to show him this toxic empathy because of the harms that were done to him in the past, as opposed to the crimes down to genocide he has committed. That's toxic. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about how you put yourself in someone else's shoes to understand what they're going through, how they are dealing with it, and why they came to sometimes a negative conclusion about how to fix that problem. And Batman is certainly that type of empathy. He looks at a person and tries to see the whole person, and he wants to save them. Then yes, I will admit these are my own standards. I'm not putting this on all of the Batman or DC fandom, but for me personally, I like to see the more compassionate side of Batman that gets avoided, especially with modern writers and film studios. You can't picture the Batman of All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, whenever he encounters Cassandra Cain. Now remember, Cassandra Cain is an assassin. She was born of two parents who trained her to be a killer. Cain is one of Batman's biggest foes because he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman and he targets him. And I just can't see the Millerverse or the White Knight version of Batman offering her sympathy and empathy. Now, she has killed in the past as a child, but it was because she was brainwashed, and Batman saw that. He didn't see just a killer, he saw a child who needed to be rescued from killers, who used her as a living weapon. And of course, we have this famous scene in the Batman comic books where Batman tells Cassandra that he doesn't care about her past, that he is adopting her, and then the two of them embrace as he says that I'll make sure you always have a family. And this isn't the first time Batman embraces Cassandra Cain. They embrace many times, and Cassandra Cain becomes one of his adopted children who stands by his side in his war on crime. Another example of Batman's compassion is, of course, in Batman the Animated Series in the episode Baby Doll. Now, this one, I tear up even to this day. I am upwards in my 30s, and I still will get tears in my eyes from this sequence. There will be spoilers for this episode if you haven't seen it, but you should definitely check it out. I believe Batman the Animated Series in its entirety is on HBO Max. So basically, Baby Doll, she's actually an actress named Mary Dahl, but spelled D-A-H-L, and she has this disease that kind of prevents her from aging. So even though she's a grown woman, she's perpetually resembling a child. What ends up happening is, at one point, she was the star of a popular sitcom where she was basically this rapscallion who would cause all these problems for her parents. And she decided to leave the show because they brought on a new character that made the audience laugh more than she did. And she was mad that she got upstage. Well, she starts kidnapping all of her old cast members, primarily the ones that played her family. And then she ends up capturing the character who played her cousin, that humiliates her in an episode by shoving her in some cake. I didn't notice this until someone else pointed it out to me. So content warning here. I don't do trigger warnings, but I will do a content warning that the theme I'm about to talk about can be very rough. So basically what happens is she decides she wants to get back at this actor, and he's like pleading with her, like, no, it was just a TV show. I wasn't doing anything personal to you. And she's like, they all laughed at me, but now I'm laughing because I've got you. And as she stuffs cake in his mouth, she puts a candle on the cake, and it turns out it's dynamite. Just before it can blow, the actor grabs it with his mouth and spits it away, and it blows out where everyone is safe. And then it turns out that that was actually Robin disguised as this actor, and then Batman, of course, walks in. Now, what I didn't notice before is Baby Doll, or Mary Doll, she has a gang, including this really strong woman who can even fight Robin to a standstill, and a bunch of thugs. When she puts the dynamite on the cake, Baby Doll doesn't back away from it, nor does she let the other members of the family leave the table, and it's very clear that she planned on this to be her last time on Earth. And when Robin foils this and she runs away and Batman gives chase, Batman doesn't try to beat her up. He doesn't grab her. He doesn't even use those bolo things he does to tie her up. She runs into a funhouse and Batman calls out to her, "Don't run away. I know you're scared, confused. I can help you." I cannot picture that happening with Ben Affleck's Batman or Sean Gordon Murphy's version of the character. Definitely Kevin Conroy, obviously, who is voicing Batman. She ends up running into a room full of mirrors, and one of them makes her look like an adult, and it's a debate about whether it's just her having an illusion, after her failed attempt at a life-ending event. She takes a gun that looks like a doll and shoots out the mirrors as Batman approaches. She runs out of bullets. Batman doesn't beat her up. He doesn't tie her up, doesn't cuff her. He stands there. She hugs his leg and gives her iconic TV line, "I didn't mean to." Batman pats her head. That is a true look at the compassion that Batman has for the villains he fights. Yes, some of them, they might be too far gone. They need to be stopped no matter what. But someone like Baby Doll, or Mary Doll is her real name, because she was an actress who was trapped in a child's body, no one ever saw her as anything more than a child. And it confused her, and she got lost, and she chose violence. But Batman didn't choose violence to stop her. Another example that has become really popular, especially on social media where people are making reels of it and clips on X and YouTube Shorts, is the Justice League Unlimited episode Epilogue. I don't need to rehash all that, but in the earlier seasons of Justice League, there was a story arc where the Joker breaks into a military facility and releases these superpowered teenagers who become the first Royal Flush Gang. And Batman and the Justice League have to stop them, and he had a plan that was hinging on a young girl named Ace who has not just telepathic abilities, but seemingly technopathic abilities, where even if you just look at her on a TV screen, she catches you in this mind warp, basically. Again, fast forward to the Justice League Epilogue episode. Ace has started a second, or perhaps third, version of the Royal Flush Gang. They are causing chaos, and they are given powers because of Ace's telepathic abilities. Now, she has engulfed an entire city into her mind warp. The only way to stop her is to end her life, because she's going to have a brain aneurysm, and everyone who's trapped in the warp is going to be taken with her. Batman volunteers to go in and use a device to end her life. Now, that's not what happens. He finds Ace swinging on a swing set, again made by her own mind, and she says, "I let you get close because I know you weren't going to use that device." And he says, "No, I wasn't," and he throws it on the ground. She tells him, "I know that I'm dying," basically. But then she says, "I don't want to be alone. Could you stay with me?" So Batman stays with her, and when her time comes, he carries her out. That's Batman. Compassionate, empathetic, and has a soft heart for kids. There are other hints of this. Alex Ross has a very famous comic where Batman takes out a gang of thugs, and there's one that looks like he's only 12 or 13, and he's holding a shaky weapon that propels a bullet, shall we say, and Batman basically says, "You don't want to do this," and the kid cries, and Batman hugs him. There's a work of fan art that is so well done. A lot of people thought it was really a comic book page, but it actually is not. It's a fan work, and it's really famous, where Batman is holding a baby and he's got wounds all over him. His costume's kind of torn up, but the baby is perfectly fine. It's very famous. You can look it up. You can find it on Pinterest, I believe. But it is my favorite fan image that I've ever found on the internet. So yeah, there are pockets of that, but it's not overall. And that's a shame, because I think modern writers and modern interpretations of the character, whether they be on the comic book page, in novels, or in the films, or even in video games, don't capture that empathetic side of Batman enough. because that's my Batman. I actually had one guy on X try to tell me that the Zack Snyder version of Batman was the perfect follow-up to Batman from Batman the Animated Series. Sorry, not sorry, that guy is a moron. The Ben Affleck Batman is selfish. He's harsh. He's not very smart, certainly not the world's greatest detective. And yes, it's true that in the Batman the Animated Series universe, if you go by the Batman Beyond timeline, it is true Bruce Wayne did become bitter at being alone and having his sidekicks abandon him. But he still maintained that compassion that he feels for people who are lost, who are wounded, who got taken advantage of by criminals. And I would like to see more of that, not just in the comic books, but in adapted pieces. Now, I know that The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, has a lot of pushback. I actually really liked it because of a really famous scene, and this is a spoiler for the movie. As the Riddler's plan unfolds and they blow the dams around Gotham City and it floods and the building that they are in, a stadium, begins to collapse. The whole movie, Batman has been saying, "I'm vengeance," right? But then when he approaches some people who are trapped behind some rubble, they don't reach out for him to help. They're scared of him. They're terrified of the legend of the Dark Knight that goes around and beats up criminals and who had just taken out the Riddler's gang. But then a young boy reaches his hand out. And that's when the Batman realizes he can't just be vengeance. He has to be hope. The Batman comics of today, and yes, I'm lumping in the new Matt Fraction stories, the video games, movies, the spin-off series, the other dimensions, they all forget about that hope, about that compassion, about that empathy. And we need to bring that back into the Batman mythology. I appreciate you watching today. If you liked that video, again, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment to what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. If you would like to support me and the work that I do, I would appreciate it if you would join my Substack. The link is in the pinned comment and the description of the video. You can sign up at different tiers that unlock different perks. If you want to support me a different way, buy my books. You can find the link on the Substack, but they're all available on Amazon.com. I hope you pick up all 4. Leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on StudioJake.
'Cause I've been living life